Okay, we're live there. Let's go live here. Okay. Think we're good. All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Good to see you. Glad we're back. We're going to get back into a rhythm where we're doing these once a week again. Again, I'm not usually sure what the topic's going to be until pretty much the day I post it. So, hope you enjoy it. If you have been enjoying it, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's great. Always good to have, backup platforms considering kind of what's going on. So everyone on Instagram, for example, who I'm looking at here, if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can. Let me actually put that in now. And there's one other thing. Give me 1 second. As there is the Holistic Health Bundle. So this is available. I know this is going to be dated very quick, but over the next 4 days, I think through January 10th, the Holistic Health Bundle is available. There's over 100 different resources in it. In fact, there are some that actually have information on EMFs. So if this is something you want to learn a little bit more about, maybe get into, that would be a really good resource to get. It's available for $50. I think there's over 100 different, ebooks and courses and such. One of which, by the way, is my breathwork, my Breathe Easy course. I put a lot of time and effort into that. Now, normally it's $199, and there's a lot of, material in there in terms of the just amount of information that kind of packed into it. That in itself is well worth it, even at that price point, because it's cheaper than working with any therapist, and you get all the same high quality stuff that I use, with people in person. So that's available. That's as part of the bundle, and again, it's $50. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. The link is in my bio on Instagram. Should also be linked somewhere, or at least to my page, through YouTube as well. So with that stuff out of the way, let's get into EMFs. Why don't we? Okay, so we have to start by remembering this concept that, we tend to look at health and our bodies as if we're like material beings, right? Like we're made up of matter, right? Different, atoms and then cells and tissues, etc., on and up the line to create the material that is, me, that is you. But the truth is, though, we're actually more energy than matter at the end of the day. In fact, most of it, like 99% of it, is actually energetic. The truth is, we're actually energetic beings. We resonate with each other. There are frequencies that align. So when you say to someone, or you say to your friend, maybe, I get a bad vibe from that person, that is a real thing. You can pick up on someone's energy, their frequency, that literally that gets into your field, and that will make you feel a certain way. And you can raise these frequencies or vibrations, and you can lower them. So, and these are things that are constantly moving, constantly changing. And I think with the advent of something like quantum physics, quantum mechanics, this is only going to be borne out to be true, and then we're going to have to relearn essentially a lot of the things that we've learned kind of through physics to this point, which is very exciting. It's also very exciting, I think, for the just health community, health world in general, because when we understand finally, again, collectively, that frequency and energy is really everything that even makes up the material, I think that's going to change the way we treat folks, the way we view illnesses and symptoms, and then more importantly, how we, get better and heal. So with that out of the way, let's just talk about what electromagnetic fields are. So first of all, with that, you have to understand that electromagnetic fields, EMFs, are everywhere. There is no way to avoid them. You yourself give off an electromagnetic field. In fact, your heart gives off an electromagnetic field that I believe is somewhere in the order of 5,000 to 6,000 times stronger than even your brain. And that's because it's always moving. So if there is a current moving, i.e. your heart, that's going to create a magnetic field. So when you're talking about electromagnetism, they're actually, you can't have one without the other. If a magnetic field exists, there has to be an electrical current moving at the same time. So each person, radiating, say for the heart, for example, emits an electromagnetic field that is on average about like 6 feet in all directions. Could be a little bigger, could be a little smaller, person to person, but somewhere in that ballpark. So we, in essence, actually have our own EMFs that we radiate off into the world. That kind of goes back to the good vibe, bad vibe thing that we were talking about earlier. So what is important here, though, is that, and I want to get this out of the way earlier, is there is going to be no way that we can, and by the way, this also goes to the trees in nature, to plants. So there's always these electromagnetic frequencies being resonated off that we are coming into contact with, whether we're conscious of it or not. Now, the issue obviously isn't electromagnetic fields on their own. The real issue are the unnatural ones, the ones that do not occur in nature. Those tend to be, a little bit more problematic and a little bit more of an issue. There's no sound. Okay, I wonder if there's going to be sound now. Guess we're going to have to see. I don't know why. That's really strange. I kind of had this issue before, so sorry I have to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I don't know why this is happening. Give me a second. This is not great for live, but I know you guys on Instagram can. I think it's on YouTube that, for whatever reason, I can't be heard. But maybe we'll keep it going for now. Maybe it'll actually show up in the other thing. But anyway, here nor there. So like with that, this was weird because this kind of happened last time and then it worked. So I don't know. Okay. So with that, when it comes to electromagnetic fields, we're talking more about non-natural, non-native EMFs is what you'll hear it as. And the truth of the matter is, in modern society today, even if you live completely off the grid, you're going to be exposed to some of these to some degree. Now remember, even the sunlight is going to give off some sort of EMFs. Anything that runs on electrical power, again, we talked about it, including human beings, give off an electromagnetic field. If you use things like a refrigerator, a light bulb, like all of these things are going to give off electromagnetic fields. So you kind of have to take that into account. That it's going to be something that we're going to be around. The real goal, should be to limit exposure, as best we can. And there's always things you can do. So like, if on a day-to-day basis, if we can maximize, the distance between ourselves and other electromagnetic fields, great. So for example, I'm recording this on my laptop right now for YouTube. The last place you would want your laptop to be is over, a sensitive organ, say like the testes or the ovaries. Probably not a good idea to put the laptop on your lap, despite the name. And you might notice, in more recent years, they're changing it from a laptop to a notebook in terms of how they call it, or what they call it. So if you can, you can put a notebook, a textbook, if you don't have a desk, put something in between to help kind of break up that magnetic field, that electromagnetic field. That would be great. Minimizing use and exposure can go a few ways too, and we're going to get into some of those kind of on the back half of this. But also, smart products. So, if you're hooked up to a house that has a smart meter, is there a way that you can retrofit it? Refrigerators. You don't need to have a smart refrigerator. You can use a regular one. Everything now that's hooked up to, Bluetooth, that's going to emit a signal. That is one of the reasons why I still use wired headphones. That is something, again, that I would still highly recommend, is if you can use wired headphones and not have non-native electromagnetic fields bouncing back and forth between your ears, for example. If you're using the wireless headphones, probably not a great idea. And certain people are going to be more sensitive to this than others, and we're going to get into why in a little bit. But why is this such an issue to begin with? So this affects a lot of things. One is fertility, as we kind of already talked about a little bit, but it also affects cell production in the body. Now, this is important to understand because in one way, like you can describe disease as we're always in a constant state of breakdown and rebuilding, right? We're always breaking things down that we need, break down our food to get what we need to build things up. So it's always a balance of breaking down and rebuilding, whether it's tissues like muscle and bone or it's the food we eat. But this happens also at the cellular level. So one way to describe disease might be, are you building more than you're breaking down? And once you get to a point where you're breaking down more, that tends to be when things like illness or disease tend to kind of come about. We know this impacts other living things too. So you might have seen stories recently of honeybees. So you may have heard of colony collapse disorder, where the bees kind of lose track of where they are or where they're supposed to be, and they can't find their way back to their the bee's nest, beehive. There we go. And you can see how this actually can destroy bee colonies because they talk and communicate and resonate through frequencies. It can also, again, because of this, can affect your immune system. And this is going to be important for a few reasons. So it's going to be particularly important, though, if you happen to be someone who has a metal implant. So it could be for an injury. Maybe you have, a titanium plate or some other alloy, maybe following an injury, right? Now, there are a couple studies that show something. So I'll just read this quick. Metals present within the body can act as an antenna to collect harmful radio waves, thus inducing many general and severe symptoms like headaches, fatigue, tinnitus, dizziness, memory loss, irregular heartbeats, and whole body skin symptoms. Now, I have a little story to tell kind of with this. Now, a few years ago, my wife and I were visiting a family member who happened to live in Manhattan. And at one point, we were like, hey, let's go, we got some lunch, and he said, let's go eat, on the roof. There's a table. It was a nice day. So we were like, yeah, sure. And we get up there. And there is a 5G panel kind of on the roof. And the table just happened to be pretty close to it, within, I'd say 30, 40 feet. And I'll never forget, didn't want to say anything because we were in a big group. But I noticed I was sitting with my back to it. So it was kind of right behind me. And I won't forget, the entire time, and the sun was in front of me, so this wasn't something like that. But I remember feeling, particularly on the left side, because it was kind of in that position behind me, over my left shoulder, 30, 40 feet back. And I just remember feeling a tingling sensation kind of on the left side of my back and my body the entire time while we were eating. And I got up at one point to go to the bathroom, and the further I kind of got away from it, it started to dissipate. And then when I came back, it came back again. So it was so even someone say without implants, for example, can start feeling this. But you have to remember, if you happen to have a metal implant, or you have, an amalgam filling, a mercury amalgam filling, these things become antennae for these electromagnetic frequencies and can actually amplify whatever that signal is. So, if you're someone who has had an injury and maybe has had a plate installed or something like that, this can actually make your symptoms worse. So if you're visiting, a doctor and you say these things and they think, oh no, it's in your head or you're making this up or it's some sort of psychological thing. Well, if you have mercury fillings, they might actually be right. It actually might be in your head. But it is happening. This is a real thing. When you have metals like titanium, like mercury implanted into your body, they're going to heighten and amplify these electromagnetic frequencies. And it's going to make, usually those tend to be the folks who tend to suffer with more severe symptoms. That doesn't mean you can't have it that way, but it tends to be more common in those folks, and it doesn't necessarily need to happen in the area where the implant is. So important to know. Now, the thought behind this, if I just kind of continue reading here, tissue injury can be caused due to heating and prosthesis. So RF heating, which is heating kind of radio frequency, electromagnetic frequency heating, was confirmed to take place at both ends of the implant in spite of their different shapes. And it is recommended to treat all materials as magnetic resonance unsafe if the dentist is not sure about the prosthesis or appliance. So this is talking about specifically as it goes to dental implants. We also know, again, patients with severe or fatal illnesses like ALS or Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, a lot of neurological type issues, cancer, multisystemic atrophy, multiple sclerosis, severe electrohypersensitivity, multiple chemical sensitivity. So especially if you're, have sensitivities to like different sprays, or if that tends to bother you, a lot of these can often, part of the problem can be exposure to these EMFs, particularly if you happen to have mercury amalgam fillings in your mouth. So that's going to make some of these symptoms actually feel worse in the long run. Now, this can be also potentially an issue, if you end up getting fusions. Now, this is a whole separate issue, but just kind of given my background, for example, when it comes to chiropractic, when you're putting screws and pins in someone's body, that's going to do one thing. That's going to literally make your spine an antenna, which again houses your central nervous system. So if you don't think that that's going to affect cognitive function or muscle function, when it comes to say like ALS or MS or Parkinson's, like getting those tremors, these absolutely make a difference. Now, I will say from my personal experience and just kind of being around the holistic dental field, just given my path in life, there are days where you will see some of these mercury amalgams removed from those who have like some of the shakes and some of those symptoms of Parkinson's and MS, have these things removed, and within almost hours to days, a lot of these symptoms begin to improve. And it's because, again, taking out something that is going to affect how the electrical system works in our body, is going to affect the health of the entire person. And this stuff happens all the time. So if you have a mouthful of metal and say you have a spinal fusion, now you're talking about, it could potentially affect the brain, it could affect the entire central nervous system, and now you're wondering why sometimes you might get, some of those shakes and something like that. Really, really important to kind of understand this, because it ultimately is common. Now, I know a lot of dental schools still teach mercury amalgam fillings. Some of the more progressive schools are starting to not require them as part of teaching, but we're a long way off from getting there. So it is important to kind of take this in mind and remember. So you're talking about something that comes from a physical stress, i.e. an injury or a cavity, and a chemical stress, because now you're talking about these non-native EMFs that are really going to use these implants as antennae to continue to kind of make things that can heighten the sensitivity to other things too. So many times these things, if you've tried, maybe everything and nothing seems to work, if you have perhaps like some of these implants or something like that, it's going to make, it might be the missing link that you may or may not have addressed. So, and this is important because if you have that, think about this for a second, like if you have that, it's going to stimulate like a response which can drive you one of two ways. Remember, it either drives you into a sympathetic dominant state, or a parasympathetic state. And usually this is going to be in a sympathetic state, which again is your fight or flight. And it's not the repair mechanism, which is parasympathetic. So if we are constantly in a state of sympathetic, which could be due to this exposure because, we're in like a 5G city and we have a 5G tower on top of where we live, and we have implants that are essentially acting as antennae, it shouldn't be a surprise that some of these symptoms might be coming around. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind, and that, these things become, adaptations over time. So the question really becomes then, like, what can we do about it? What are the ways around it? And now that we have, this 5G rollout slowly coming, and we know that there are hundreds of different studies that show the potential damages of EMFs, but they will say it doesn't happen necessarily with 5G because it's proprietary, and there's a lot of different loopholes that go into that. But the point is, they do exist. We know they exist, and unfortunately, a lot of these are just captured government agencies, essentially, at the end of the day. And this is not something, unfortunately, we have informed consent over, because no one is signing up for this. It's just a question of it's happening. So the real question is, like, what are some of the tools that we have at our disposal? Like, what can we do about it? So this might be a harder one, but if you can go from wireless to a hardwired internet, that can be better. Again, this is not necessarily the easiest thing to do, especially if you don't have the cables running in your house or wherever you live. That might be tough. But one thing you can do is actually install a timer. So for example, you can shut off the Wi-Fi in your house. You can hook it up to a timer where you can shut it off at around the same time every day, so it's off at least while you sleep, and then when you wake up in the morning, it'll turn back on. So that's one way that you can, limit it a little bit. Again, I want to be perfectly clear here. There is no world where, at this point, where you're going to escape these 100%. It's just a question of minimizing it, doing the best you can, and kind of, continuing down that road and making improvements, as you can. So that's like kind of one thing you can do about it. Another big thing is just using your cell phone in a safe way. So if you're going to talk on your phone, and you can, please try to use your speaker or use wired headphones. Do not put the phone up near your head. Do not use wireless headphones. These are going to again, shoot frequencies essentially up to one of the earbuds, and then it goes through your head to the other one, and it just kind of goes back and forth. That's essentially how the Apple AirPods work. So it's a frequency from the phone to one earbud to the other side of your head, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Not good for your long-term health. You can look at different types of thermography studies that show the folks who talk on their phone hooked up to their ear all day, using either a Bluetooth device or just talk with their phone up here. We already know that those folks tend to get cancers more, especially in that region. So if you talk in on the right side, it'll happen on the right side, etc. So that's something. If you have to have your phone on, like I do at night, I use it as my alarm clock. I put it on airplane mode, and I keep it about as far away as I could from me. It's maybe like 6-7 feet away. And again, it just goes off for my alarm in the morning. So, that's another thing that you can do. If you have a landline, like maybe using a corded phone might be a better choice than a wireless one. A lot of phone cases today, you can actually get a phone case that has electromagnetic frequency blocking capabilities. So these can range anywhere from like $20 to the higher end, maybe close to $100, depending on the phone. But these are pretty readily available. You can find them. On my phone, I actually use a shungite stone to kind of help with that. That's another option you can use with. So that's an option. your sleep, like I said, ideally, like if you don't have to use a baby monitor, I know that might be a lot for certain parents, but if you don't need a baby monitor, that's another, again, signal that's going to go from the baby's room or wherever the baby is to your bedroom, and then again back and forth, back and forth. Again, like ideally, if you don't need a clock in your room, or use one of the old school like battery powered ones, that's even better. Ideally, one that doesn't have an electric screen. So that's something else you can do. If for lighting, if we could, try to use the old school incandescent bulbs. I know they're harder to find now, but those ones are going to be much better than the newer fluorescent ones. So that's definitely something. That's a big one. What else? So again, if you could keep your phone as far away off your person as possible, that's better. So ladies, like no phone in the bra strap. Probably not a good idea, especially around such sensitive tissue. If you can get your phone out of your pocket, even better. If you could put it in your backpack instead of, your pocket, that's a better option. So, anything that can help would be really helpful there. Just don't buy smart stuff that you don't need. I know it's all there in the name of convenience. I know. I get it. I know how convenient some of this stuff can get. But a lot of this stuff can be altered, and there's analog versions of this. Do you really need the smart refrigerator? Because I have one that works perfectly fine and it doesn't have a screen on it. Like there are things that we can do that are straightforward that can make real differences here that, again, can help, quite a bit. So, what else here that I didn't get to? If you have kids, try to push off getting them a cell phone as much as you can. I know how hard that is nowadays, but children specifically are going to be more vulnerable because they're still growing. Their metabolism is much higher than adults, and that can affect them while they're still growing. So if you can delay getting them a smartphone, even better. So, so that's like a few things you can do. Minerals, really important. Like making sure that you're keeping your body well mineralized with a variety of different fruits and vegetables. Sea vegetables are really good for this. Algae, chlorella, spirulina, nori, kelp, dulse, all of these are going to be really helpful things that you can do. What else do I got here? I'm trying to think of like anything else that I haven't talked about yet. There are nowadays also, I didn't mention, there's certain clothing. So there are some, clothing apparel. You could get different types of underwear or hats that can help shield some electromagnetic frequencies. Again, might cost a little bit more money, but when you're talking about things like fertility, it might actually be worth it. Other things that can help. Again, I mentioned spirulina, but turmeric, curcumin's really helpful. Iodine and selenium, magnesium, vitamin C, having proper melatonin production. So that's one that can help too. It's all about these things. Potassium, copper. Having the balance of all these minerals is going to be really helpful in terms of managing this and limiting exposure as best we can. So in terms of what you can do about it, those are going to be the best options. Again, not perfect. There's going to be no way that we can eliminate these 100%. It's just a question of doing the best you can with what you got. Again, if you have something like a mercury metal implant in your mouth, I know it's going to be frustrating because someone told you it was a good idea and it was going to last forever, but those are things that are going to affect your health long term. And I've seen how firsthand getting those things removed, particularly with neurological symptoms or detoxification or sensitivity type issues, getting those removed can help quite a bit. So that's what I got for today. I hope this helps. I hope you have a lovely, fantastic weekend. I know I'm going to try to enjoy it. I've been so busy for so long, so I'm going to try to enjoy it. Really quick before we go, if you haven't yet, the health-based bundle is available. The holistic health bundle, health-based bundle. Holistic health bundle is still available between now and January 10th. The link is in my bio. You can find it on my website or Linktree. It's for $50. It includes over 100 different resources you can use there. So really helpful. If you do want it, if you're interested in my breathwork course, it's worth it literally just for that, because you can get it for $50 instead of the $199 regularly. So even if that's the only resource you wanted, it's worth it. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week, and have a great day. Bye. Okay, let me unplug this. All right, I could hang out. Of course, more than happy to cover it. I don't really have a plan kind of coming into these. I just kind of think of what topic I want to talk about that day, and today was EMFs. So hope it was helpful. I do see a question here I'll get to. Can I talk about POTS a little bit? So POTS, post-orthostat. So with POTS, sometimes with that, it can be EMF related. Especially, again, if there's some sort of dental implants or other implants that are going to affect the neurology a little bit, that is possible. So again, like if we can get those things removed, that could be part of it. But generally, like cleansing, detoxing, using herbs that support the liver, using things like wheatgrass, that can be really helpful, might be able to help with some of those symptoms. But again, if the root cause is like an implant or something like that, then at some point or another, you're going to have to address that. So, like I said, sometimes that is the underlying link that's missed. And, it's frustrating because you usually have to go through that dealing with a dentist twice. And I know how much people hate going to the dentist. So believe me, I get it. But yeah, it helps quite a bit. If there are any other questions, I could answer one or two more before I go, because I did have some work I want to do. But other than that, I'll hang out for another minute or two. I just want to check something quick here. Oh, wow. So there is a sound issue. That's a bummer. So YouTube has no sound coming through the last two videos. Oh. So I might have to save this and then... Oh, Happy New Year. Hope all is well. Yeah, Happy New Year. All right, so I'll try to figure some of this stuff out. 4-day spots, how do you get rid of them? So with that, it kind of... how do I do this? So depending on what the cause is, sometimes with that, it could be a mineral deficiency type thing. So with that, I would definitely take a look at the tongue or again, the iris too, to see if there's any underlying, other things that could be going on there, that might be causing it. But sometimes they can self-resolve. So, that is definitely a thing. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to run for now. Again, like I said, I just have a little bit more work to do. I hope you guys have a lovely weekend. Oh yeah, we might come camping. We'll see how the schedule works out. We will, we'll do our best on that. But I hope you guys have a lovely weekend. I'll see you guys soon. I'll have some exciting news on a new honey product and a hot sauce coming out. So, yeah, hope all is well. Have a good one.